Well, obviously quarterbacks are an important commodity, and Kenny's somebody that we've had a lot of respect for a long time. I was in Tampa in 2022 when he was a rookie and beat Tom Brady. He fit the profile of what we're looking for. He does a lot of similar things that Geno does with his athleticism and ability to move the pocket and all that. And, you look around the league and you think, who could be available? Who could we get? And a team with 4 quarterbacks certainly looks like a spot where you could get it. And so we felt like organizationally it made a lot of sense. We still are excited about working through Aidan's injury and getting him back at some point. But, we had to have some answers, and it would be a lot to ask a rookie from North Dakota State to be the number 2 guy going into New England in week 1. So felt like it was a great move for us.
That was Raiders General Manager John Spytek talking today, Wednesday, at the Raiders practice facility, post 53-man roster, post trades, post bringing guys in off of the waiver wire, signing a new tackle. Lots to talk about here at Vegas Nation First and 10. Before we get to that, just want to say that welcome to Vegas Nation First and 10, your go-to for Raiders news and analysis, brought to you by the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Station Casinos STN Sports. Truly appreciate all of their support. I'm Vinny Bonsignore. I cover the Raiders for the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Vegas Nation. To my right is my great friend and colleague Adam Hill. He also covers the Raiders for the Review-Journal and Vegas Nation and many other things here in Las Vegas. You just heard from John Spytek. It was an eventful day here, without question. We got out onto the field for the viewing session. Now we're transitioning into regular season mode, so the media is only really allowed about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. I don't know the exact time being out there on the field.
It's different every day. It's basically you get to watch stretching and like some individual work, and then
exactly.
Once they're running plays, they usher us out of there, so we can't tell you guys what they're working on for the upcoming week.
Which is probably a good thing because you never know what some people might put out there, right?
It's happened before.
It has happened before.
And they ran a play in front of us yesterday. We're like,
they did.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Interesting. What? Can't tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So we were there long enough to figure out that Thayer Munford was not there at practice, and did my little detective work and snooping around. Come to find out that they were on the verge at that point. They had already done it, but they were waiving. They were waiving Thayer Munford, the fourth-year tackle from Iowa State, and they were bringing in a new tackle. At that point, boom, we're out of there. So we don't know who that new tackle is. I talked to a couple of people in the NFL. They were like, "Yeah, they're bringing in a new tackle. Can't tell you who, I'm sworn to secrecy." Yeah. So it was one of those types of things. Come to find out from the general manager himself, John Spytek, the new tackle is Stone Forsythe, not Stone Cold Forsythe. But
maybe call him that.
Yeah, I'm sure he's heard that one before.
He got there about midway through practice.
Right.
They put him in a jersey and ran him out on the field to start preparing because, hey, he might be needed next week, 10 days from now.
Yeah.
In New England. So get out there and get the practice. He has been, unlike Amari Cooper, who had not been on a team. Stone Forsythe has been in camp with the New York Giants, released by the Giants, and now he comes to the Raiders. But more interesting than his time with the Giants was his time before that, because he was a draft pick of the Seattle Seahawks, where he played for Pete Carroll. Now, if you want, I would caution you, unless you're into like horror films, don't go back and look at the PFF grade or the tape of Stone Forsythe during most of his time in Seattle. He did have one really good season where he played pretty well with them, but it's been a bit of up and down struggle for Stone Forsythe. But a guy with a ton of talent, ton of potential, hasn't quite put it all together, and obviously did not make the Giants team. But somebody who Pete Carroll is very comfortable with, and I think that's important to look at here because he didn't have a pre-existing relationship with Thayer Munford necessarily. Didn't know, hey, if I have to throw him out there in the game, how will he react? He does know Stone Forsythe. He's been there. He's had to put him in games before. He understands him. He's comfortable with him, and I think that is something that's very important to look at with some of these transactions.
Right, and so before everyone asks the inevitable question of, well, why did they hold on to Thayer Munford on the roster, the 53-man roster? Why didn't they just waive him from the very beginning? Well, you can't just waive somebody that actually you feel might be able to do the job if you don't have somebody that.
But they needed a better option.
They needed a better option to emerge. Obviously, Stone Forsythe emerged. I don't remember if he was he waived or was no? He was released. He was released. So
because he's a 2021 draft pick,
right?
So
Exactly.
He would have been a vested veteran.
So he didn't have to go through the waiver wire process. He became an immediate free agent. But the Raiders can't just waive Thayer Munford without knowing that Stone Forsythe was going to be available, or somebody the equivalent of Stone Forsythe was going to be available and had interest in coming to the Raiders, because theoretically, Stone Forsythe, as a veteran free agent, could have signed anywhere. So they had to get that part of it squared away first before they left themselves vulnerable by getting rid of Thayer Munford without a parachute. John, I almost said John Forsythe, Stone Forsythe, old-time actor, by the way, becomes that parachute. And interesting from John Spytek to hear, he comes in and he's going to pretty much, sounds like, bridge that gap until Charles Grant is ready. That could be next week. It could be 2 weeks down the line. It could be 2 years down the line. Yeah. Not to say that Stone is going to be here for 2 years, but that's the plan ultimately, is that Charles Grant is going to be a bigger part of the picture. He's just not ready right now.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair and absolutely true, and it's kind of what we expected out of this. I think what we were saying yesterday was that even though Thayer Munford is ahead of Charles Grant on the depth chart, if they were to make a move at tackle, it would be Thayer Munford that was out, which doesn't make sense logically. Or if you're ahead of him on the depth chart, why would you do the ones out? Well, Charles Grant's a developmental piece that they're going to keep around to move up and get ready. And I think we both believe that there's a lot of potential there, but just not right now.
Right.
So now you get rid of the guy that's ahead of him on the depth chart, bring in another guy ahead of him on the depth chart for right now. And
it's like having a 5-star. Not to say that Charles. It's like having a 5-star freshman. That just isn't quite ready. Showed up to campus, maybe right before training camp when summer school was school is starting, and there's a 2-star that's ahead of him on the depth chart. But long range, one guy's probably going to be an NFL player. The other guy is right now just better right now because he's older, more mature, has been there. So it's just one of those types of situations. Not quite, maybe a little bit complicated, but not hard to understand necessarily. So Charles Grant is the future for now. Stone becomes the day in and day out for this period swing tackle. Should something happen to Colton Miller? Should something happen to DJ Glaze? Moving on, the Raiders also put a claim in. We expected them to be active on the waiver wire. They ended up being awarded Brennan Jackson, he was a 5th-round pick of the Rams last year out of Washington State. Edge rusher, unfortunately couldn't stay healthy with the Rams. That was what kind of cut into his time, talking to some people that I know in Los Angeles. Lots of potential, just hasn't been able to stay healthy, then got caught in a numbers game. The Rams kind of tried to seek him through waivers, and the Raiders obviously liked him and brought him in. He's now on the 53-man roster. And before people ask, okay, well, I thought they needed cornerbacks. I thought they needed this position. Look, you don't know who else they claimed.
Yeah.
It's in order. Just go back to the draft order. That's the order of the claim wire. So the Raiders, remember, had pick number 6 in the draft. They had claim number 6 in the waiver wire process. That means 5 other teams had access to the players before they did.
Tennessee claimed 4 guys.
Right,
they were number 1 up at the top of the waiver wire. So anybody that they wanted, they got. So, you have to, if you put in a claim, you just have to hope none of the top 5 teams put in a claim for that same player. So it's very possible the Raiders put in more claims. That's not something that we really know. So, that's kind of a blind bidding process. And so, maybe they did. Maybe they did. We're not sure.
True.
But, we wouldn't know for sure if they were able to try to get anybody else. Turns out nobody fell to them that they claimed. So they get one guy off the waiver wire. And I still think, we've seen a couple of transactions today, a couple of moves. Aidan O'Connell goes on IR. Thayer Munford, and we'll get to that in a second, but Thayer Munford is waived. There's 2 roster moves with 2 new guys brought in. Still don't think they're done between now and the start of the season. I would think there'd be at least one more move, I think.
Okay, let's now talk about Aidan O'Connell. I know everyone was asking, he's hurt. Why did he take somebody's roster spot, on the 53-man roster? Why didn't you just put him on IR, or why didn't you just waive him? Okay, couple things. Number one, had they put him on IR before the 53-man roster was set, there was 2 ways to be able to do that. One was to use one of their 2 moves that you can make on injured players at that point and put them on IR with the ability to bring them back at some point this season before you set your 53-man roster. Of those 2, though, take away from your 8 total. So they already put Lonnie Johnson on IR yesterday, which means putting Aidan O'Connell on IR with the ability to bring him back at some point before your 53-man roster was set would have then left them with only 6 of those types of moves down the road. And in the season, Adam and I have been doing this a long time. Guys get hurt.
Yeah.
So you want to preserve as many of those 8 spots now 7 with Lonnie being out of having already taken one of those spots. You want to preserve as many of those 7 spots as possible. So from the Raiders' perspective, they're saying, okay, let's wait till the whole process, set the 53-man roster, make the moves that we want to make in terms of the waivers, adding players, all of that, and then put Aidan O'Connell on the IR. Because at that point, once your 53-man roster is set, you don't have to designate a return. You just put them on IR. If they're able to return at some point, he becomes one of any player that you put on there is eligible to be one of the 7 guys that they can bring back. So they wanted to maintain the flexibility because they don't know if they're going to need Aidan O'Connell right now. They've got Kenny Pickett. They may not need him. But in 6 weeks, Geno Smith might be hurt. Kenny Pickett might be hurt. Maybe they do need him, so now they can bring him back and use one of their spots. Or, as we were mentioning yesterday, rather than just waive him, hold on to him for as long as possible until maybe there's a spot open for him on another team. Maybe somebody goes down in New York. Maybe somebody goes down in New Orleans. And all of a sudden, there's a team out there that needs a quarterback, and now rather than waiving Aidan O'Connell for nothing, maybe he becomes a trade chip that you get a 6th or 7th round pick, whatever, more than the nothing that you'd have gotten had you just put him on waivers.
I do think the way it works is that you can trade a player from IR, but you would have to designate them to return first.
That's fine.
So you'd still have to use that spot.
Right. No, yeah, for sure.
You'd still have to use one of those spots. But, yeah, you preserve one of the declared spots, I guess is the way to put it, because now you don't have to declare whether it's coming back or not. You can just activate them at some point.
By ear.
And then, figure it out from there. So they got that. Now, again, it doesn't change the fact that, as we said yesterday, if there was a player they really, truly were worried about losing – they would have used
the key.
They would have used that spot for they would have put Aidan on IR, made him one of the declared to return, and said, "That's okay, that's fine. We need to keep this guy on our roster." I don't think they had anybody that they thought that they were that terrified,
as it turned out,
about losing. So,
because they didn't.
Right.
None of the players that they waived were picked up. Now, a little caveat to that: Sincere McCormick, who was waived, got through waivers, and once you get through waivers, then you're eligible to sign back on with the practice squad. But that doesn't mean you're exclusive property of the Raiders. You can sign with whatever practice squad you want. And it turns out he said, you know what, Las Vegas, I've been there like 3-4 years. I'm going to go find another opportunity. He's now on the 49ers practice squad. But
I'm going to go find a place where the starter gets hurt every year.
Exactly.
And I might have a chance to actually play.
Right, exactly. So Sincere now is with the San Francisco 49ers, not their 53-man roster, but their practice squad roster. The Raiders populated their practice squad, and I think Adam and I, not that I think, I know, we alluded to this one yesterday. As we did the podcast yesterday, I don't think either one of us thought that Tommy Mellott was going to be back on the practice squad. We explained it then, just a quick recap. He didn't show the Raiders enough as a wide receiver. You know, kids making the transition from quarterback to wide receiver, totally respect that. It's not easy to do at this level. But he needed to show the Raiders something in terms of being a wide receiver that they would have said, A, we got to keep this guy on our 53-man roster, or at the very least sneak him through waivers and bring him back to the practice squad to continue developing him. I don't think he showed them enough in either case. Basically, he was a special teams guy. You don't necessarily waste a practice squad roster spot on a guy that you don't truly believe is going to ever turn around. That doesn't say that he won't be back at some point, but I think the Raiders, for as of right now, are like, good luck to you.
Yeah, didn't sign with anybody else's practice squad.
Yeah, good luck to you. And instead, they brought back who I thought was actually much better, Cedric Jackson.
Yeah.
I really liked during training camp. Obviously, Alex Bachman, we knew that he was somebody that was making noise, and I think is the perfect. He's like that 5A player in AAA baseball, Major League Baseball. He's that 5A guy, a great guy to have. 4A guy, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, my math is bad. A 4A guy, AAA. Yeah. Quadruple, whatever.
The guy that's too good for AAA, not good enough for Major League Baseball.
For 17 games.
Just kind of hovers and like sets records for home runs hit.
Yeah.
In the minor leagues.
Gets a standing ovation when he gets his first at bat.
Crash Davis.
Right, exactly. Right? But a great guy to have if one of the wide receivers were to go down. He knows the system. He's a hard worker. He can get out there and acquit himself pretty well. I would imagine at some point in the season you're going to see Alex Bachman up on the active roster, even if sometimes
for somebody.
What's that?
For somebody.
Yeah.
Look, other teams can sign your practice squad guys too.
But they got to put you on your 53-man
Right.
roster. You can't go get somebody
Right.
to be on your practice squad.
If
from
you
a
want to
practice
sign somebody to your active roster,
Right.
any team in the league can take somebody off your practice squad.
The
And
other-
they could also say no. By
Right.
the way.
Exactly.
So it sounds like it happened with a couple guys today
Yeah.
who chose practice squad spots over 53-man roster spots
Right.
in other places.
Yeah, it's happened before. It'll happen again. And then also another wide receiver that they kept he's kind of a quasi wide receiver tight end, Justin Shorter. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. He's he's that big physical wide receiver that they don't have a whole lot of outside of Dante Thornton. So he's somebody that can help you as a wide receiver. He might be able to help you in a pinch at tight end. Although they did bring back a couple of the young tight end prospects that they had. Cam Miller back as a practice squad quarterback. Why don't you take it from there on what some of your thoughts on some of the practice squad guys?
Yeah, well, first I just want to go back and say you didn't just have to listen to the podcast yesterday. I mean, you could have listened the last couple of weeks, and we were saying Tommy Watt just wasn't developing as a wide receiver, and it might not happen. I think the biggest takeaway is the one we said yesterday that was going to be the most important was getting Terrell Edmonds back on the practice squad, not getting claimed anywhere else, and I believe
didn't need to be claimed. He was
he was released, not,
but it was
not
pretty
waived.
much you
You're
could
right.
tell that it was like
But he could have signed.
We're all
somewhere else.
good.
Right? Could have signed somewhere else, but it seemed like the plan was release you, sign you back to the practice squad.
Conversation that
It was a
they
little
had.
handshake agreement,
Yeah.
and no other team decided to sign him to the active roster. He will most likely, I'm going to say, be elevated for the first couple of weeks to the game day roster and be active and play a pretty significant role on the Raiders defense, I think, the first couple of weeks of the season, at least until Lonnie Johnson is back, and who knows, depending how he plays, maybe even longer than that. I think that was the most significant addition to the practice squad because I think it's going to be a guy that pays the most immediate dividends for the team.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you never know what happens in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Last year Marcus Epps goes down, third game of the year or whatever it was. This is such a volatile sport and volatile situation that a guy like Terrell Edmonds could end up being the defensive MVP before it's all said and done, depending on what happens. Obviously, the Raiders don't want that to happen, but he's great coverage for sure for that first month. And to explain this again, as a practice squad guy, you can get elevated to the game day roster 4 times. After that 4th time, you have to either be added to the regular season or the 53-man roster,
to waivers,
or put back on waivers and then brought back. And I think your clock starts again after that point. So they've got a little bit of wiggle room and a little bit of flexibility to get them back to Lonnie Johnson. And then beyond that, whatever else might happen in their secondary, especially as it relates to their safeties, they may need Lonnie or both of them or Terrell Edmonds longer than what they might think sitting here today.
Yeah. And then I have another thought on, I think there's something that I don't believe is real, and clearly, John Spytek also doesn't believe is real. We'll hear that next.
But before we do, I just want to remind everybody that you guys asked for this, and we are delivering here at the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Special Raiders coverage at a incredible discount. That's right, Vegas Nation, a subscription to Vegas Nation, at the moment, costs 25 cents for the next 3 months. That's 25 cents, not 25 cents per month, 25 cents for 3 months of the best Raider coverage in the world. That's Vegas
sure
Nation.
That's the price?
I am. I've double-checked it. I proofread
crazy.
it. Yes. I didn't even have to wear my glasses. I literally saw 25 cents for the next 3 months. All you have to do is go to mylvrj.com/nation. That's mylvrj.com/nation and get hooked up for Vegas Nation coverage of the Raiders for the next 3 months for 25 cents total. Go check it out.
People are paying attention to this, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but for some reason my mom loves the podcast. She loves to check it out.
Same with mine.
And she said, we need to get this deal.
Yeah. Oh.
And I said, we already have a subscription. We don't need the deal, but everybody else should probably take advantage of it.
My mom always asks me, who's that good-looking dude over
Yeah,
there?
I'm sure that's
Adam Hill, Mom. But check it out, and when we get back, we will talk about that very intriguing. I'm curious what you're talking about.
John, what was your thought process, if you could elaborate at all, on not bringing Tommy Watt onto the practice squad?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Tommy, and there was a lot of hard decisions that we made the last couple of days, and ultimately our responsibility, coach and myself, is to put the best 53 and then 17 after that. And to get ready to win football games. And there's always a development part of that too. But there's a reality sometimes that who is most ready and who is furthest along and who can help this team win the most. And ultimately, we made some decisions that didn't include him for now. When I talked to him yesterday, he's a great kid. He worked really, really hard to try to become an NFL wide receiver after being an FCS quarterback. I don't think people understand quite how hard that is. And unfortunately, this is not a field where there's a lot of patience all the time. And I still believe in Tommy. I think he's got a really bright future, and I really hope that he finds a place where he can find maybe a little more patience from a roster standpoint. The other thing I would say, too, and this is to compliment Alex Guerrero, Chris Cortez, and our entire athletic training staff, we were very, very healthy. And a lot of times those decisions get made for you. There's a lot of times where I've been in a wide receiver room where you have 15 guys, and next thing you know, you're down to 10, and it's not that hard to make a decision. We had to make a decision between all the wide receivers that we brought to camp. They were all healthy at the end. So unfortunately, it didn't work out here for Tommy right now, but I'm never saying never to him, and I wish him the best wherever he ends up.
All right, welcome back to Vegas Nation First and 10. Your go-to for your go-to for Raider news and analysis, brought to you by the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Station Casinos STN Sports. Adam, I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
you mentioned something before we went to break. I'm curious what you're talking about.
Well, we just heard from John Spytek, and he didn't knock on wood or anything. He just said, we're really healthy. And credit to our trainers, we've been healthy. And he was talking about the wide receiver position in particular. But I think you can talk about most positions. I mean, obviously the Aidan O'Connell injury, the Lonnie Johnson injury, but the Raiders got through this camp really, really, really well.
So you're saying, knock on wood, you don't think that's the real thing?
I don't know. I don't believe in jinxes.
Yeah.
And clearly Spytek doesn't
Well,
either.
okay.
I don't think he would have said it out loud if he did.
Hold on one second. First day of training camp, I'm talking to John Spytek. And remember, if you remember, that was a beautiful day.
It was.
Okay, it was a beautiful day. And I was like, man, the weather really worked out. And he's like, you can't say that. If the weather turns bad, I'm blaming you.
Oh, no.
So there
Maybe
you
I'm
go.
wrong.
Sorry.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, he at least in terms of the weather, and I said, I'll take that. And you know what? I was right. It stayed pretty nice the entire training
Stayed
camp.
pretty nice. It wasn't. I mean, look, for Vegas, it was
That's
fantastic.
all I'm saying.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Perspective, Adam.
Like for other places, because there was a lot of people that are coming into camp, like from other teams or from around the league, national people, and they would say, "This is brutal. You guys deal with this every day." We'd be like, "No. This is
Jacket weather.
great for us."
Exactly.
I was wearing hoodies.
Yeah.
Sometimes out on the
What are you talking about? I'm chilly. All right, so one thing that I do think that he agrees with us on, and I'm talking about John Spytek, and like we said yesterday with the trade for Amari Cooper, sometimes as a general manager, you just got to, you got to appease your coach. At the end of the day, part of your job, as much as you want to look at the future, think about the future, develop guys, as he said, I want to play rookies right now. I would love to play rookies. But there's a time and place sometimes and in situations, and you have a head coach in Pete Carroll who wants to win right now. And so I think when you asked him and we asked him about bringing in Amari Cooper, and, we didn't directly say that it's going to impact Dante Thornton and Jack Besh, but it's going to indirectly.
He answered talking about those guys. So
Yeah.
He knew the implication of the question.
Yeah, he absolutely did, and he took it from there, and he basically, I wouldn't say confirmed, but he reiterated kind of what we were saying. It is a little bit of a tug of war sometimes.
Yeah, and he said many, many times. I think he maybe 4 or 5 at least times during the press conference today. We're in lockstep. We agree on all these decisions, but nobody's ever going to agree on 100% of decisions. It's not going to happen. And he did also point out, as you said, there's a tug of war, and there's a time where, as a personnel guy, you're like, play the rookies, let them get better, let them grow, let them improve. And a coach is like, that mistake that he's learning from just cost us a first down. And I can't have that. And
Right.
that is the tug of war that's going on where, a coach might look at a mistake as this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And a GM is looking there saying, oh, he's going to learn from that. This is going to be great for us in 2 years. He's not going to make that same mistake. That is the battle that goes on.
Now, I will say this about Pete Carroll, and I think this is one thing that one reason why I think he and Spytek are going to vibe and continue to vibe. If there ever comes a point in time, and then we just will say player A and player B, we don't even have to name names. If player A, the young player, is showing that he's better than player B, the veteran, Pete Carroll will not wait 1 second to make the move if he thinks player A, the younger player, is going to give him a better
but
chance.
that's easy. That's not really the debate is when player A, the veteran, is still slightly better than the younger player.
Which
But
is probably the case right now.
I'd rather play the younger player.
Well,
I think that's what a GM would say. And a coach would say, no, I'm going with the guy that's better right now, today. I don't care about what's going to help me in a year.
Take what you can in this situation, Adam. There's a coach in place that if it's close or, because trust me, there are
coaches that will just play the veteran no matter what, even if the younger player is better. There's no question about that.
His name is Phil Jackson, by the way. Never had a plan to develop younger players. Love you, Phil, but come on. Anyway, no, that's the truth of the matter. That's the truth of the matter. That's why a guy like Greg Popovich, 3 years down the line, you're like, who's this guy? He's the guy that he was playing, and looked bad for a while, but kept playing and kept playing and kept playing. Now he's kicking your butt because he poured development time into him. That's the difference between a coach that is willing to take those lumps and get that player quicker to where he thinks that he can be, is capable of being, and a coach that is. And I think Pete Carroll is a guy that he will never hesitate to make that switch if he feels like that's going to be, or that player gives him a better chance to win right now. But if you're the general manager, you just have to kind of respect sometimes the position that your head coach has taken, especially if that coach. And I believe this, and I said this yesterday. I think Pete Carroll thinks he can win with this football team.
Yeah, I think. Well, and whether that's actual belief or that's
blind
overconfidence and hubris,
blind stupid belief.
We'll see. And I've been consistent. I think it's an 8-win or a 9-win team ceiling, but that's still a big improvement from last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be good. A lot of people would think that's good. I would look at that and say, probably would have rather won 6 or 7 games playing younger players than 8 or 9 games playing older players. But that's the eternal struggle. I mean, that's kind of what John Spytek was talking about.
By the way, and we'll get out with this, Pete Carroll has been proclaiming himself a guy that's won 10 games a year for the last 23 years.
The way it's going around, is he's won 10 straight games, 10 or more, 23 straight seasons.
Okay, semantics aside,
yeah.
I did the math thanks to AI, by the way, because I'm terrible at math. And I said, AI.
Well, hold on. AI got it wrong, too, because you sent me a number, and then I did it by hand.
No, you got to take out last year because you didn't coach last year.
I did.
Okay, so you went back to the 2020? No,
to the first year at USC.
2002.
Right.
You take out 2001 because he keeps saying the last 23 years. I
think he means 23 years coaching.
No, that's the whole thing. I'm telling you, man, Pete knows what he's talking about. You ask him. Next time we get him on a private side, you ask him. He's like, no, I mean the last 23 years. He's throwing out the first year at USC. The 6-6 year does not count. He's going from 2002 to 2023, but also including 2024 when he didn't coach. So he's like over the last.
How is he coaching? How is he counting a year he didn't coach?
To make it better. That's why. To be right in this. So anyway, if you go back.
Even if you count the 6-6 year, his last 23 years coaching, he has won 10.17 games per year.
Okay, there you go.
10.17.
Then it still works.
He has averaged more than 10 wins per season for the last 23 years of coaching.
So I get where you're, because Adam's a stickler on this, and I totally understand. But when you do the math, you're like, he's kind of right. He just hasn't done it.
Wrong.
Hasn't done it because there's been a couple of.
There's a way to say that he has averaged 10 wins for the last 23 seasons. That's actually factually correct and very impressive.
You'd be a terrible salesman.
Oh yes, of course. I would be. I just want truth and facts. I'm very numbers based on these things, analytics based too.
Exactly.
When it comes to sports, we have 10.17 wins over the last 23 years of coaching is a very impressive.
It's a roundabout way of saying it. I'm kidding. I'm with Adam to some extent, but at the same time, we all know the guy. We all know like our great uncle or uncle that's gonna say what he's to paint the rosiest picture.
I've won 10 games every year for 23 years. Well, you haven't, but you have averaged it.
Yeah,
so that's
which is still pretty good. He could I guess he could say, look, I've averaged 10 wins a year for the last 23 years, but
yeah, it'd be factually correct and impressive. Like it's not any less impressive.
Maybe we should talk to him about that.
Yes.
Yeah. Along with that, maybe we could tell him to run the RPO or something like that.
Well, I would also want to talk to him because there's a lot of Auburn people that we know that are now celebrating a 2004 national title. Which, if you are claiming to be a national champion in 2004. We probably should tell Pete that.
Yeah, right?
I mean, let him know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a conversation you want to have.
If
you're that guy.
I'm going to make Daniel Carlson tell Pete that himself.
No, yeah. Maybe after he signs his new contract.
Yeah, maybe wait.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for today. I got a chance to talk to John Spytek. The roster's in place for now. I'm with Adam. I think there's still some moves to be made. but we'll see. You guys have to be available and want to be here and all that good stuff. So we'll keep monitoring it. We're back at it tomorrow. Pete Carroll will talk tomorrow after practice. They're scheduled to practice at 8:30, I think, outside tomorrow. And then there's that long, weird NFL layoff for Labor Day. Is it Labor Day?
Yeah.
That's the holiday coming up. For that whole weekend, we're still going to be working.
Bad at math and calendars?
Yeah,
You got it
I always
right.
get I always get Memorial Day and Labor Day. It's a Monday, So, but we never have it off anyway. So what does it matter? But we're going to be here. We will do it. We'll be doing our normal post-practice podcast tomorrow. Check out all of our stuff over at Vegas Nation because we got you covered with the new 53-man roster, the practice squad, Tom Brady being allowed to virtually talk to coaches and players from other teams as part of the broadcast. That story is up over at Vegas Nation. What are you working on?
I'm going to a parade right now.
Oh, that's right.
I'll be at a parade. But also working on some stuff coming up. We have a big preview section of the season coming out this weekend. So a couple of stories there, game-by-game breakdown, and a closer look at some of the guys that have been around for a long time since the Raiders have been in Oakland, including a new one, Amari Cooper.
There you go.
Now 5.
I'm working on a story on Pete Carroll, and I have the treat of talking to Justin Fargas minutes after we wrap up here. Justin Fargas, who is a coaching fellowship here with the Raiders this year, in I wouldn't say an irony, but full circle. You talk about that 2021 or 21 and 22 team. Justin Fargas was in the building at Heritage Hall with Pete Carroll his first year, played in Pete Carroll's second year when they went to the Orange Bowl and kicked Iowa's butt and started that whole massive run. Carson Palmer was on that team. So I'm going to be talking to Justin Fargas about that start for Pete Carroll and the Pete Carroll that he knows now coaching under him. And, of course, Justin Fargas was also a great player for the Raiders and briefly for the University of Michigan. We don't want to talk about that. But anyway, thank you for your support. Continue to hit that like button, the subscribe button. Remember, go to mylvrj.com/nation to get a great offer, 25 cents for the next 3 months of Vegas Nation coverage. Tell your friends, tell your family, send it to somebody for a gift, whatever you got to do. Thank you for that. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave comments. We love to interact, ask us questions on the YouTube page. Remember, the Vegas Nation YouTube page is up and running. We'll put all the information down on the scroll. Thank you to Heidi Fang for doing everything that she does. Adam Hill, enjoy your parade. We'll see you guys tomorrow.